Hi, this video is going to be demonstrating how we can factor. So if we take a look at the problem that we're trying to do, it says we want to factor 3x squared plus 22x plus 40. Now remember, in order to factor, we want to create two binomials being multiplied together if at all possible. The first thing you always want to look for when you're asked to factor is to look for a GCF. I see that there's a 3 in front of x squared. So your first thought should be, is there a 3 that I can take out from both 22 as well as 40? Now, there is no number where I can multiply 3 times something to get 22. And the moment it doesn't work for one number, I don't care if it works for the other. So we don't even have to check to see if it works for 40. I do want to look at the very last term, and I do notice that it's just a number of 40. Had there been a variable, we would have potentially then had a GCF with a variable. But since the last term just has a number, the first term has a 3, and I can't get that out of any of the other numbers, there is no GCF. And so when there's no GCF, but there's a number in front, that's when we factor by using guess and check. The nice thing about 3 is that there's only one way to multiply to 3, 1 times 3. So those are going to be the numbers that when we start creating our binomials have to go in the front with our x. So I'm going to make one of my terms have a 3x, the other has a 1x. Now you can put a 1 in front of that x. I usually don't, but it means the same thing. I'm going to jump to the last number now, which is 40. I'm going to think about all the ways to multiply to 40. Well, there's 1 times 40, there's 2 times 20, and there's 4 times 10. There's actually 5 times 8 as well. So there's quite a few ways of multiplying to get you 40. This is where the guessing comes into play. We have to guess between all of those numbers, which ones do we want to use? Now, because we're trying to get a 22 in the middle, chances are we might want to try to pick numbers where we think that we can get to a 22. Well, there's one that has a 20. Let's maybe try that. Because everything's positive, everything is going to stay positive. We're going to guess where the 20 and the 2 go. I'm going to put the 20 first. I'm going to put the 2 second. And now we're going to check to see if our guess was correct. That means I'm going to multiply the outer terms together. 3x times 2 is going to get me 6x. I'm going to then multiply the inner terms together. 20 times x is 20x. I'm going to add those together and see if I get that middle term. Unfortunately, I'm getting 26x. Because that's not my middle answer, we guessed incorrectly. So we have to try it again. The starting point is always going to stay because there was only one way to multiply to 3. Maybe let's try something other than 2 and 20. Let's try 4 and 10. I'm going to put the 10 first, and I'm going to put the 4 second. And now I'm going to start checking my guess. So I'm going to multiply the outer terms together. 3x times 4 is going to give me 12x. Then I multiply the inside terms. 10 times x gives me 10x. I'm going to go ahead and add those like terms. And notice this time I get 22x. So it took me 2 times, but I got there eventually. It might take you more than once. Don't ever erase your work. You want to make sure you know what the guesses were that you tried as you're going through this process. Taking a look at this next one, we want to factor 2x squared plus 3x minus 14. Once again, look for that GCF. Since I have a 2 in front, can I get a 2 out of 3? And the answer is no. I can't multiply 2 times 3 to get, or 2 times something to get 3. So 2 doesn't work as a GCF. Because the last term doesn't have a variable, once again, there is no GCF. And so you start with the 2. The nice thing is there's only one way to multiply to 2. That's 1 times 2. That once again means that when you're creating your binomials, the first binomial and the second binomial have to start. One of them has to be a 2x and one of them has to be a 1x. If I look at the last number 14, I know that 1 times 14 gets me that. So does 2 times 7. But notice that the 14 is negative, which means I'm going to have to guess. One of my terms is going to have to be positive and one of them is going to have to be negative. So I'm just going to guess that the positive goes first and the negative goes second. Now I'm going to guess which one of those two sets of numbers I want to try. I want to try to get 3x that's positive in the middle. So I'm going to choose 2 and 7. I'm going to put the 7 first because if I put the 2 first, I would have a 2 twice in the same parenthesis. That means that they have something in common, which means that there would be a GCF. But there is no GCF, so I don't want to put the same number in the same parentheses. Once I've guessed that, I'm going to check my answer. 2x times negative 2 is negative 4x. 7 times x gives you 7x. If I add those two terms together, notice I get my 3x. So I guessed correctly the first time, and so that's my answer. I would like you guys now to pause the video and try factoring 5x squared minus 18x plus 9. Please pause now because in 5 seconds, I'm going to show you my answer. Here was my answer. Hopefully your work checks with mine. If it doesn't, please ask me. And we are now going to go through several more problems together. I hope this video helped you with factoring.